YouTube, Facebook Live. It's 8 o'clock. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's the dialogue. We're coming your way. Thank you for joining us. Listen, right off the bat, because of some new restrictions or regulations by Facebook, we need you to go on this page. Well, some of you look at it on the dialogue on my private page. Some of you look at it on the dialogue with Dozie page on Facebook. We need you to go on that page and like that page. We need 100 more likes to make sure that we can continue to use this forum to come to you on Monday nights. Go to Dialogue with Dozie on Facebook, the Facebook page. Go to Dialogue with Dozie and just hit like. We certainly do appreciate it. Listen, it's Monday night, and I'm trying to perk up. I've been on the road the last 4 out of 5 or 6 weeks, and it has just totally caught up with me. No golf game today, none of that. I'm just beat. But the dialogue must go on. That's what they used to say in the old adage was, the show must go on. Well, this show will go on. And hopefully next week, I'll be back. We'll be back in business with my partner in crime, KV. He's on assignment, but he has a few weeks during the summer, and hopefully he can join me next week when we're going to talk about what was scheduled this week. That is looking at the O.J. Simpson case 30 years later. We're going to do that as opposed to making it a two-part. It's going to be a one-part show. We're going to look at O.J.'s history as an athlete, pitchman. We're going to look at and movie star. We're going to look at him as the accused in the crime on Bundy in 1994. We're going to look at the trial of the century. We're going to look at the outcome of it, what happened afterwards, and we're going to look at O.J. Simpson's and through his demise. So we're asking you to join us. Maybe we can get Carl Douglas. I once was acquainted with him during the heat of this, right after the trial. Maybe we can get him on next Monday night, 8 o'clock. Tell everybody we'll be putting feelers out. We'll be talking about the O.J. Simpson case and bringing a close on that. Probably won't be talking about that again. We'll be doing a Where Are They Now also. Most of the Dream Team, would you believe it or not, have gone on. Lee Bailey's gone. Robert Kardashian's gone. Johnny Cochran is gone. Tracy Chapman, she's married now. She's still around. And Carl Douglas is still around. But many of the players in the O.J. Simpson, Robert Shapiro is still around. He has the online legal thing that has made him millions. But a lot of the lead characters on the Dream Team are gone. So we're going to talk about that on next week. Tonight's lead, as some of those in the industry would say, we're going to talk about the four-time indicted, once convicted, twice impeached, four times over the last 2 years legally sued, $500 million in debt to the federal government because of a judgment against him, and having been declared by a federal judge as accused, who has adjudicated him guilty of rape. Tonight's lead is yours, your good friend, the Orange Man himself, Mr. Donald J. Trump. A lot of absurdity has gone on. Hey, Marcus, thanks for joining us tonight, man. We appreciate you so much. A lot of absurdity has gone on with reference to it. And Marcus, I'm your pastor. You may see me a little out of character talking about this guy, but just forgive me. A lot of absurdity has gone on this past weekend. For instance, in one forum, he challenged the current president to a cognitive test to have their mental capacities compared to each other and to see how they both rate. He said that he had just passed one while he was in the White House, and right in front of him was a White House doctor who is now a congressperson, and he could not even remember the man's name. He just assigned him a name, something I did as a kid as a sports banquet. Y'all remember Gator McCluskey, right? That's what he did. He just gave the man a name while he's talking about challenging the sitting president to a cognitive test. Wow. If that wasn't enough, this is crazy, y'all. The church is the 180 Church in inner city Detroit, in Detroit. Detroit, as you know, is not only a chocolate city, but it's one of the most chocolate cities, and it's been that way for a long time. By the way, I know everybody won't like to today's show. A lot of people won't listen. Some people will cut us off because when we start talking about this guy, they can't take it. I have always tried to be fair and balanced, not like that news outlet that says they're fair and balanced. Even though I may not agree, we may not be a part of the same political ideology or philosophy or party or whatever. I've always tried to be fair and balanced. In fact, while we were talking about him a few years ago, while he was still president, I can remember my brother having done a rundown stat sheet when we asked the question, was he racist? And I, at that time, I was still gullible enough to think that he was he used racism to cement his MAGA base and brought all of that crowd back out because he knows America's propensities, just like he did talking about building a wall. That was another extreme example of racism. But today it came out, one of the producers of The Apprentice, the TV show, said that right before he resigned from the show to run for president, he often threw around the N-word. And I'm sure if we can get him, we've never bothered her, but my good friend John Newman's wife, Omarosa, could probably attest to that, having been so close to him. But tonight is not the show where we're just going to tear him down. We're just going to look at some of the absurd things that occurred over the weekend involving him. And we're going to ask some questions of some of the voting populace. So he appeared at this church, this African-American church that is 100% African-American, right in the heart of the hood of Detroit, the D as they call it. And while there, this four-time indicted, once convicted, twice impeached, 4 times losers of civil suits in the last few years in court, including a $500 million judgment by the federal government, and also a federal judge adjudicating him civilly as a rapist. We wanted tonight, it would have been a last minute grab after we couldn't do the Simpsons show, and we'll do that next week with Fidelity. Just this road just has taken its toll on me. We have a Black young lady that we want to bring on who is a staunch supporter of this guy. And we want to bring her on, and maybe some of those guys that we heard on a few weeks ago, and ask them how can they, as people of color, how can they support this guy? I'm just astonished, and we're not trying to make everything racial or racist, but let's just say this: you think if the 44th president had done what occurred on January 6th of 2001, that he would have not been indicted and probably be in under somebody's federal prison by now? Do you think if he had gone and defied the federal government by taking documents, and of course we saw the sitting president and the former vice president made the same mistake, but as soon as they realized that, they notified the FBI and turned them back in. This guy tried to hide them, probably for gain. He talked about how much money would be made after they've been declassified. Well, there's a whole lot of questions, according to some of the connections that he has overseas, most worldly with Putin. How would that be? Okay, I got my man Steve Thomas on tonight, so I got somebody who's gonna disagree with me tonight. Okay, however, and I'm gonna go to his comments in just a second. What I really want to say is, shame on trying to fool America and African Americans and people of color, minorities. Shame on you for allowing that news to go out that Trump spoke to a predominantly African American audience at that 180 church in Chicago and Detroit. That is not the case. Go back and look at the tape. Pull it up on YouTube, wherever you need to find it. You'll see that 90% or better of that crowd that came into the Impact Church on Saturday, and as the former president is trying to solidify a base with the minority community. He went in the hood, in the heart of the hood. I know that area. He went in the heart of the hood, and the church was filled with 95%. I just got it in 95% of non-Black members, but it was portrayed over on that other news network. It was portrayed as the former president making a major outreach to Black Americans. And also the panel discussion that was part of the panel, they were pre-selected Trump supporters. They were not just people who were brought in to have a neutral conversation about government or governing, something that we have not gotten from him. All we got is hate. We've talked about building walls, and I'm not against some of the things. I'm objective enough to say when a person has some good ideas, let's gravitate to them. But all we've heard from him are those things which separates America or separates other people. This country was built because of immigrants. And do we have to do something about it? The immigration issue in this country? Absolutely. So I don't want to dedicate tonight's show. I'm just doing this first segment talking about him. But shame on everybody who portrayed that as a Black audience. We can't blame the former president. I'll have to applaud him for reaching out to the Black community. Some of the former Republican presidents didn't even care about they even do that. At least he did it. At least it was for political gain, but at least he did it. But 95%, I'm told, of those in that audience, and I saw the tape earlier today, were not Black. They were not the members of the church. They were not members of the community. They were people who came in just like a Trump rally. And I'm not blaming him for that. I'm just blaming the people who have pitched it as him speaking to a predominantly Black audience. That wasn't the case. The pastor of the church, young man, my hats off to him. He started a church after having served prison time for gang violence and narcotics violations and those kinds of things. But he didn't tell the truth. He said that President Trump was the only person to come and reach out to Black America in Detroit. Whereas the facts are is that President Biden, since becoming president, has been in Michigan 15 times. 8 of those times spent in Detroit. We know Vice President Harris has been there numerous times. What has happened in Detroit by the former president is that there's a case being mounted against he and Rudy Giuliani and others in his team for attempting to swap the votes, just as the case in Atlanta. So let's just stick to the facts is all I'm asking. Another thing I want to say about him before we move on from there, I want to address Steve's question in a second. The other thing that I want to address about that is look at the human carnage that this man has left behind. I wish I had the graph. Tonight's show is this hot button show, but it's strictly spontaneous because I didn't have any graphics because it almost didn't make it. There is a graph that's put up of all of his supporters that have either been convicted. They went in court and accepted. They played out to the crimes in Atlanta. Some are starting that process in Michigan. Now it's in Atlanta. Arizona. And one of the biggest names is Rudy Giuliani. You remember him, don't you? America's mayor, who helped to bring New York City back and was a gallant man doing 911. And before that, he was a prosecutor and known as a tough prosecutor. He prosecuted mob cases and so forth and the like. He affiliated himself with the former president. Now he has 2 criminal convictions facing him. He has lost. He has 2 major civil suits. He's in bankruptcy court as of today, and he has been adjudicated in civil court to owe $168 million. Remember the Black lady and her daughter who were both worked in the elections office? Well, he pointed out videotape of them while they were working. The lady was dumping trash or something, and he accused them. A Georgia jury awarded them $148 million of defamation of character. So now he's in the process of the bankruptcy proceedings so that he can try to salvage somewhere to live. He has lost 1 home, and he is currently, they said, as of as of this case, he is going to be booted from the home that he's living in. I didn't know that much about bankruptcy. I thought you were allowed to maintain your domain. So that's just one of about 17 people. And some people are already serving prison sentences. You remember the people that the former president refers to as hostages? I want to get Steve's take on that as a law enforcement person. These people stormed the U.S. Capitol, assaulting federal officers who were there to guard the Capitol buildings and so forth. One died, one committed suicide as a result of what happened, as happens after people come home from wars. And some people immediately pled out for those federal charges and were assigned accordingly. Trump says if he gets reelected, he's going to pardon them. He's going to pardon them as soon as he gets in office. And he refers to them as hostages and patriots. We have that discussion in a minute. Okay, hey Dozell, let's stop by to say hello. And certainly we may disagree with some of your comments tonight. I love and respect you and wish you and your family the best. Jumping off now. Take care, brother. Hey, back to you, Steve. Really appreciate you, bro. Steve served as police chief. We served on the police department together in Central Florida. He ended up serving as 2 stints as police chiefs, and he retired from one of them. And you've heard him talk. He was one of our initial guest hosts quite a bit, and he talked about his intentional outreach to the African American community. And knowing Steve as I do, I know it was genuine and it was real, and he was trying to bring about change. And he does not work with us now, but we certainly appreciate him. We'll always treasure him as a brother. Once a brother in arms, no disagreements will cause you to make permanent severances. And we just thank Steve for his comments. And thank you, Marcus. Listen, enough for Trump. When we get this sister on, hopefully in 2 weeks, let's see if we can book her the week after the debate. The debate is about 10 days away. The following week, let's see if we can get him. Thank you, Steve. I wish you could tell my wife that we're both stand-up guys, and I'm a stand-up guy. Thank you, brother. No, appreciate it. I'll talk about this at the break. But thank you all. Thank you so much, Steve. Man, I feel the absolute same way about you. Nothing but the utmost respect for you. Steve went on to work, was architect of the Police Athletic League there in Daytona before retiring, which connected him with my father and people who my father worked with, who my dad retired. He was the first boxing coordinator for the Police Athletic League there in Jacksonville. And so the people, Norm Demiris, Scotty, those people, I think Steve kind of reached out to them when they were starting, is what he tells me, if I'm recalling it right. And they got to be friends. So anybody type with my dad or my brother, who you know is a retired GSO officer, who, by the way, y'all could be, I don't want to say anything in relation to Mayor Deegan, because we all love and appreciate her. But when her term was up, my brother, he could easily be the mayor of Jacksonville. He knows everybody. Everybody knows him. So we'll be glad when he's able to do it. But thank you, Steve. Appreciate those comments. I want to now shift to the Supreme Court. I want to shift to the U.S. Supreme Court. Horrific, horrendous, horrible. Every other thing can be said about it. What trust do we have in the court now? Okay, and I'm not talking about abortion. You know, I'm a child of God, so I'm gonna have a certain feeling about that theologically anyway. But let's just look at they took a case. Trump has appealed every criminal conviction he had. He has appealed. He's tried to run out the clock. He couldn't run it out in New York. That's a state court. But he's tried to run out the clock. He has a favorable judge down here that's working with him. And he's trying to run out the clock. As Reverend Al would say, he's running to stay out of jail. Lord knows if he doesn't get elected, we're praying it doesn't happen for the good of the country, democracy. If he doesn't get reelected, he is probably going to, with all of these convictions, if he does get convicted in these 3 other cases, he's probably going to find some jail time somewhere. So he's running to avoid that. But the Supreme Court has taken up the case. Why would they even take a case? To see if the president of the United States would have immunity. If the president of the United States does not have immunity, then you can do what Donald Trump said he would do when he was running for president. I know this sounds like a Trump show. It's not meant to be. He said when he was running the first time around that he was so popular that he could go down Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and not get in trouble. And that's exactly what he thinks he can do. So he makes a long-ditch effort to prolong his case, and he makes a long-ditch effort to try to prolong the case. And what he ends up doing is appealing to the United States Supreme Court that a president should have immunity. Unbelievable. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? I'm not doing that segment right now, but can you believe that? And amazingly, the Supreme Court, number one, they took the case. Then when they took the case, they purposely calendared it so far out that their decision would cause, would contradict, would cause the case in Washington, D.C., the January 6th case, to not come up before the election. They know what they're doing. And what everybody's afraid of now is that they're leaning towards the immunity. That is absolutely crazy. I'm not talking about flags flying upside down. I'm not talking about arguments with neighbors. I'm not talking about being a favor of the insurrectionists. Justice Thomas says, his wife says, I'm talking about, I wish I had the great, this show just made it tonight. There's a bar that shows of all of the Supreme Court justices of the last 30 years, all of anything that they have ever been accused of as far as basically being on the tape. Judge Thomas, I'm sorry. We'll have to reassign that name to that black senator from South Carolina. He's about to overtake that charge. They showed him sitting there smoking a cigar with this real rich billionaire who basically owns him. And he has received $7 million of benefits from him and has not reported them. And so when they tried to bring him up in Congress to investigate it, of course, Jim Jordan and his crew elected not to. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's just say Barack Obama made it to the Supreme Court. Do you think that would have been the same thing? They would have hauled him before them. Even though there's separation of powers, they would have placed some restrictions, but not with this court. Remember, when President Biden was elected, there was a move by Democrats to get him to increase the number of justices so that it wouldn't have this heavy right-wing tilt that it's going to have for many, many years. And Biden is now saying, I saw one of the political ads, he said that if Trump gets reelected, the next president's likely going to name 2 Supreme Court justices. Now, I'm going to tell you, like I said, some of the things I'm going to be all right with. But that whole right-wing thing that they're tilting towards, come on, that's not America. That's not who we are. How does this guy get to do this? How does Alito's wife get to do the stuff that she's doing? There's absolutely no ethics on the court, and it's beyond ethics. There not only no ethics, their laws are being broken, and we're standing by and accepting them. The fact that they haven't even made the decision about the presidential immunity, which was supposed to have been made by now, just tells you. We never seen them move rapidly? Yes, we did. Remember when in 2000, Gore and Bush, they immediately overturned the Florida Supreme Court and selected George Bush, who became a 2-term president. Festus, you have embarrassed the legacy of Thurgood Marshall and every black person, every black jurist. You are abysmal. You are totally embarrassing. Tim Scott, don't go in that path. I know you want to be president so bad. I love you, man. Don't embarrass us any further. Let's go to break. Let's go to break. GoGigaWorld.com. GoGigaWorld.com. They got all of your virtual needs. The Toyas and Makia and company, I'm telling you, they got all of your virtual needs. The pandemic is over, but virtual needs are here to stay. And I want to tell you that if you are in need of something virtual, you need to contact them, and you need to contact them right away. You saw their website. Go ahead and hit them up. They do web building and all of the like. That's moregogiga.com. Check them out. Let them be a blessing to you. We thank them for the work that they've done. Listen, last week, when last week's show came on, earlier that day, I had just received the news that my big cousin, my cousin Dozell Jones, had passed, and we dedicated the show to him. And I was blessed to have had an opportunity to spend some time with him. I talked to him. He couldn't talk back to me, but I reached out to him the Friday before that Monday. We recently celebrated his life on Friday, and shout out to my kids for coming up and supporting their dad. They knew what Dozell means to me. He's the closest to a big brother that I've ever had in this world. Just so grateful for all of the support and all the kind words that you all have said to us as a family on Facebook. Our love goes out to his loving bride, Carmen. We're all neighbors, grew up right on the same street, a few houses apart. But the thing tonight, I want to veer away from all of the craziness of the political situation and give an absolute shout out to Jacksonville's Impact Church. Impact Church is Dozell and Connie's home church. It's the church I think their entire family is their church. And Impact Church did what churches are called to be, to reach out, to be a loving outreach to the community, and to bless them in their hour of need. And they did that. I just love them. Now, you know, I'm a product of the Bethel Church there in Jacksonville. Bishop McKissick will probably have words with me about this. But if you're looking for a church home there in Jacksonville, Impact Church, right where Regency Square, it's still Regency Square Shopping Plaza right there on the Arlington Expressway. Great location, nice facilities, just the loving spirits, and it was genuine. It was not manufactured. It was not practiced. You can tell when there's a genuine spirit of love, and we saw that. And thank you, Toya, for the outstanding job you're doing. Impact Church, we shout you out to how you reached out to our family, how you ministered to Dozell. Dozell had a heart attack about 4 years ago. You ministered to the family through that. He had a stroke 2 years ago. In fact, Monday night, we were just getting about to do the show. We're trying to determine if we were going to do the show, and we went ahead with it. And they ministered to him. In fact, the staff pastor who was assigned to him and their family ended up doing his words of comfort and just the hospitality. Listen, as a person who 44 year in the clergy, or 44 years ordained, whatever it is, I just want to say, if you're in Jacksonville and you're looking for a church home or in the vicinity, they have a loving fellowship, and that's what we're looking for. Shout out to you, Impact Church, for how you minister to our family, and we know you minister to all families like that. We're so grateful to you for what you've done. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, let's pivot from the serious conversation about our world. I haven't said much about Drake and Kendrick Lamar feud. I just like what Stephen A. said when he said Kendrick and Drake, cut it out. I love that. I love hearing him say that. Marcus says, you're doing well in the Lord, Mr. Stevens. God bless. Thank you, Brother Marcus. We appreciate your support and your prayers. And so they must have heeded Stephen A. Smith, because that is kind of quiet. And the assistant producer tonight, my little granddaughter, Love, sent word to me via my wife. Don't be looking at TV. And so I said, but I got to look at the score of the game so I can report the score of the game. They say, don't be looking at TV. So you won't see me looking out of the corners of my eyes today, okay? I'm looking straight into the camera. Let's pivot to sports, speaking of that. Let's talk about the series. Who you got tonight? Who's going to win? The game has not started yet. Is it going to be the Boston Celtics, who, what is it, 15, let's see. Well, one game away from being the 18-time champions and breaking the tie with the Los Angeles Lakers, or will it be somebody like that, or will it be will it be the Dallas Mavericks? Will they pull it together and put some whip butter, a can of whip butter on you know what I'm saying, on Boston like they did the other night? They've been close in about let's see, they've lost 3. They've been very close in 2 of the games that they lost in the last minutes of the 4th quarter. And then they just got it all together and poured it out the other night. Who are we going to see tonight? Who's going to win tonight's game? Who you got? Who do you want? I know there are a lot of anti-Boston fans. And, well, so I'm probably one of them too. The only time I really embraced the Celtics was when Doc was there and my main man KG and that group, whatever. And they won 1 and lost 1 with the Lakers, giving KG 1 championship. And giving Doc a ring also. I like them. I think he's having some struggles of late. Doc Rivers, I think, is the greatest coach in the NBA currently. I like some things he did in his previous stops. And speaking of coaching, oh my goodness, we'll get back to that. So who you got tonight? I have to say this: those young boys, Tatum and Brown, they are absolutely awesome. Regardless of how they're playing, if they're playing at their apex. Brown sometimes it takes him a half to get going, but when he gets going, what a difference he makes. I'm just saying tonight is I think Boston knows the ramifications of going back to Dallas with a 3-2 lead. So I think you're going to see them take it tonight and just shut down basketball for the rest of the year till October. Anyway, we do get Olympic basketball in a few weeks. But I think they're going to do it. And I'll feel good about those young men. They paid their dues. And Jaylen Brown, man, we're going to talk about him one night. He's a great athlete and a superior basketball player. He just got a big bag going into the season. I think he's the highest paid player in the history of basketball right now until Tatum signs his contract. But he is a world-class individual. He's he's got a Rhodes Scholar mindset. He graduated from Cal. I'm going to talk about him one night and just have everything. Kim sent me some information. I knew some of that stuff, a lot of that stuff, but I didn't know the full package. He is just a sharp brother, and I want to talk about him. And so those two, he and Tatum, my hat's off to them. If they win, they paid their dues. They've come up, they've lost, they've been close, and they probably paid their dues to win. But you can't win it by sentiment. You got to win it on the court. You got to go out there and take it. So we'll see. We'll see who goes. Hey, didn't dedicate a show to him, but certainly the dialogue wants to pay tribute to one of the greatest to ever play the game, and that's Mr. Jerry West. The silhouette, the logo, number 44. He's the logo for the NBA. You see his logo on all, the courts, half courts and everything. And we just salute him. He's the logo for the NBA. As great as a player he was, and we can debate that because he lost to a Boston Celtic dynasty that I don't think in those days anybody would have beaten. I'm not going to hold that against him because you can take the same statement. You can take the same premise against Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain, one of the greatest players ever played the game. They had to invent rules to keep him from dominating. But 1 man, 2 men, 3 men, they could not beat. Boston was like 8, 9 deep with Hall of Famers back then. We just salute Jerry West. As great a basketball player he was an even greater administrator or executive in the league. He is the reason that Shaq and Kobe were paired up. He saw in Kobe Bryant what many people didn't. They told him not to waste a pick on Kobe Bryant, but the late great Kobe Bryant. But he saw just how good he was, and he matched him. And then he went out and got Shaq. And Shaq will tell you it was mainly Jerry. It was a coaxing of Jerry West that brought him in to brought him in. Thank you, Madam Producer. That's the late great Jerry West, who left us on last Wednesday, I think it was, at age 86. I didn't know Jerry was even sick to that extent. But afterwards, people started saying that yes, he was indeed, in fact, sickly. But he turned several franchises around. He turned that franchise around. He brought Shaq and Kobe, put that little dynasty, that three-peat dynasty together. He went down. He brought the Clippers. He's consulted them to where they're no longer the little sisters of the Lakers, the little brothers. They're now a legitimate competitor in the NBA. The Golden State Warrior team, Warriors, that won 4 NBA titles over an 8-year span, a 6-year span, whatever it was. He helped put that dynasty together, and he also he's consulted the Memphis. The Memphis, are they the Memphis Grizzlies? The Memphis Grizzlies, and they'll be back because they got your boy Ja back this year. So just a great mind, a great basketball visionary, and not only was he a great talent, but he proved to be a great executive. So shout out to Jerry West. Now, speaking of coaches, we're talking about the coaches. Thank you, Madam Producer. We're talking about coaches. And your comments are well appreciated because I'm by myself tonight, no guests. So talk to you, boy. Let's chop it up together. The Lakers, they went after Dan Hurley or Don Hurley or the Hurley brother who coaches UConn, who's 1-2 and who's expressed desires to put together a dynasty. I mean, the first to do the three-peat since Johnny Wooden did it. Boy, that's going back. And they couldn't get him. Well, it's kind of embarrassing to the Laker organization. Yes, it was a reach because the history of college coaches in the league. So, Love, I was looking for just a second just so I could report something on the show. Let me tell you this. If Dallas keeps playing the way they're playing, this is going to be over real fast tonight. Anyway, they went after it's not Bob Hurley. Bob is the brother who played for Duke recently with Christian Laettner in that group. I think it's Don Hurley. I'm gonna have to find out. I can't get that wrong. But anyway, they went after him, and while everybody else was speculating that they were going after this person and that person, and the big name that we heard was oh gosh, I can't even think of let's see. The big name that they were going after was the kid that does the podcast with LeBron James. My gosh, I can't think of his name, and that's embarrassing. Dan Hurley is his name. I couldn't let that go. I couldn't let that go. It's Dan Hurley. So they go out and they said when everybody else was speculating this person, that person, they had Dan Hurley. Their radars were on Dan Hurley all along. Then they bring him out. Everybody knows they bring him out. They put it in the mainstream what they were doing. It made them look good. And then they offered him the amount of money. They said this is going to be a monumental hire. This is about changing the culture. This is about propelling the Lakers organization into the next generation post LeBron James. And they spoke of all that. And then they brought him out and offered him chump change. I think it was, I don't know, it was whatever it was. It was going to be, it would have made him the 6th highest coach in the NBA. These are the Lakers. Now, let me say this. When you're an iconic franchise like the Lakers, you're tied for the most NBA wins. You're tied with the most NBA wins in history, championships in history. You don't do that kind of stuff. You don't miss. You don't take a shot like that and lose. You don't embarrassingly fly a guy across country and he goes back. And I don't care about, his family's roots are there. He wants to win a third straight. If you put the right money on the table, all of that takes a background. And they tried to lowball a quality coach, and this is what they got as a result. Embarrassing, they were turned down. Now this weekend they brought JJ Redick in. He's calling the game right now. They brought him in and interviewed him. There's some other assistant coaches they're looking at. It's totally embarrassing. It's not the kind of thing that you want to see a top franchise. The Lakers are probably not going to be competitive. I mean, they're going to be competitive, but you're not going to see them compete for a chip probably in the next 3 or 4 years, because as long as Denver got the Joker in their group, they're going to be coming at it for a while, and there are other teams on the upswing. And we forgot that the Memphis team was without their star this year. He'll be back. They'll be in the hunt. There are going to be a lot of teams. The Timberwolves are on their way up. Oklahoma State is on their way up. So the West is going to be highly competitive. And even though LeBron is defying the ages, he's defying at age 40, almost in a few months, playing like he's 20. That can't last forever. So they got to propel themselves into the future. And you're going to see, once they do that, you're going to see just they needed somebody to do it, and they lowball what would have been a great choice, and it was really embarrassing, just embarrassing. And embarrassingly, you need to see Shannon Sharp talk about it. Speaking of Shea, man, shout out to Shannon Sharp. Was it this time last year? He was probably at his lowest, particularly as a professional broadcaster, when he unceremoniously left Undisputed with Skip Bayless because of their conflict. And shout out to Stephen A. Smith, who said, we're not going to he called that firing basically what it was long before it happened. And he said, we're not going to leave that brother out there. He went and got him, brought him on First Take, and ESPN agreed. He's on 2 days a week. He just got his bag from ESPN. You're going to see him in an expanded role. So shout out to Shannon for the work that you're doing in the broadcast industry after a Hall of Fame football career. Thank you for your honest commentary. Thank you for your real. I mean, you're a real brother that I can just appreciate, in spite of your little beef with what's his name? Doggone it, I can't think of the comedian. In spite of that little beef that you guys had, that y'all patched up, congratulations, Michael Epps. Yeah, your little beef with Michael Epps. Congratulations on puffing that up. Now, the next thing that's got everybody in a tizzy in the sports world is Klay Thompson, of the beloved Warriors. By the way, can I get away with having several teams that I like? I'm gonna always like the Heat. They're gonna always be number one. But can I get away with liking? I like the Warriors, so whether I can, I'm gonna do it anyway. I love the Warriors. I was put to the test. Kim and I went down to see them play. Kim came and got me out of a sick bed and took me to see them play a few months ago down in the what we knew was the AAA Kaiser Center, whatever it is now. We saw the Warriors and the Heat play. And my excuse to Kim was quietly pulling for the Warriors was that they were fighting for a playoff position. The Heat was already in the playoffs. He called me a turncoat. He's been calling me that forever because I like the Warriors. Hey, I'm an offensive guy. I've always coached offensive football. When I had my little gray-white teams in high school, I've always coached on the offensive side of the ball. I love offensive football. I love offensive basketball. My dad built me to be a defensive player, but I was not a talented shooter. I could jump out the gym. I could block shots. I could get rebounds. I was Dennis Rodman. I could defend whoever needed defending. I had to defend the tall guys before I was tall. But I like good offense. Who doesn't like the offense that was engineered by Steve Kerr with the Splash Brothers, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry? So Klay Thompson has kind of riled up the sports world because he unfollowed the Warriors on Instagram and wherever else, Facebook or wherever. He unfollowed them, and I'm kind of like Gray was funny. He said that was hilarious to him, and that people are making a big idea. big deal out of it. Well, what's happening is that there's a lot of strategy going on. Clay has not signed, and it's kind of bleak as a Warrior fan that he will sign, because he wants the proper years, and he wants the bag, he wants the money. But all you had to do was look at Clay's performance this past year and say maybe it's the injuries, something took a toll, and really he still was at the top of the league. But when you have a standard as Klay Thompson, when you're probably one of the top 5 shooters of all time in this league, and you're playing like he played after the All-Star break, you saw him come back and regain his form much better. It just was inconsistent. And so he was unable on the last year of his contract, and that's unheard of. You never let a star player not sign a contract by the last year, so he just walk out. I ended the season saying you cannot let Klay Thompson walk out that building. I don't care what kind of year he had. I don't care. You cannot let him walk out the building. You can't do it. Klay has often said that he wants to end his career with the Warriors where he started. He does not want to leave there. You know, he has ties to the Lake organization. His dad was a part of the Magic Johnson Showtime era. He's on the broadcast team there now. He was interviewed the other day. He was asked about it. He's saying he's certainly he's certainly hopes that Klay can stay there with Golden State. From a business aspect, because the Warriors are way over the luxury tax, meaning that they way over the allotted amount that they are allowed to have for salary. And so in the NBA, it's a dollar for dollar. You pay for every dollar you over that salary cap, you pay $1 penalty for it. And they're saying that it's likely that he is love. I was just trying to give everybody an update on the score. It's 9-5, y'all, Boston. That he is from a business perspective, from nostalgia and all of those things. Yeah, you keep Klay. Klay went to the bench, and if you all remember, the same night that Kevin Durant went down with his torn ACL, with his torn Achilles, Klay Thompson tore his ACL. He tore his ACL, and he was making a remarkable comeback the following year, the year after that, and right before the season started, then he tore his Achilles. Some people say he was probably favoring the ACL. So he set out the better part of 2 years and a half. And you saw him come back when they won 2 years ago. He was Klay Thompson. He looked like Klay Thompson of old. But last year kind of caught up with him. He was just not himself. He was not Klay Thompson standards. As I said, he was at the top of the league. He was at the top of the league, but he was just not his status. And so we'll keep our eyes on that situation and see how that goes. Reportedly, Philadelphia wants him. They want to match him with Maxey and the big man there. Excuse me. They want to put him together with them. And supposedly Orlando is ready to throw Brink's truck at him. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. We'll keep an eye on that. If the Celtics close the deal tonight, basketball is over until the Olympics. We have the Olympic team will be getting ready to start competing over in Paris in a few weeks for the Summer Olympics. But otherwise, pro basketball will be over. So if you're in South Florida, what else do? You gravitate to pro hockey. Something that I have never, ever watched. I used to go out and sell coke, go to the hockey games in Jacksonville, but I never understood it. I think I knew a little bit about the rules. But the Cats, the Florida Panthers, are 1 game away. They were in line for a sweep, but they're now 1 game away. And tomorrow night, they play the Edmonton Oilers back here at the sun, out in Sunrise, right across from the mall, and everybody will be there to watch that and to see how that comes out, to see how pandemonium. We'll have a little pandemonium here in South Florida, which we haven't had since the Heat won their last game. One thing I want to say, since we're talking sports, I want to say this, and this is kind of refreshing. Tyreek Hill says, thank you, Marcus. Tyreek Hill has said that he wants to end as a Miami Dolphin. He left a dynasty in Kansas City and came here to Miami. And he's saying that he wants to end his career as a Dolphin. And in so doing so, he says he understands the financial dynamics and understanding that being the highest paid receiver or making the biggest money or making a whole lot of money would not be a part of his priorities. His priority is ending here with the Dolphins. That was refreshing to hear from a professional athlete in 2024 when everybody's out for them. They want to get their money. They want to do this. And for him to say that was just really, 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 really refreshing. And I say hats off to Tyreek. That means that the organization will have to do what they have to do to keep him happy. He has to get his touches and all of those things. But you see me looking over here because I'm trying to see if they're going to score with this possession. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking to see, and we want to see more of that in professional sports when people are coming to some priorities that money isn't everything, and that's really the truth because it's really not. And man, football's right around the corner. I tried to look at a little bit of the San Antonio Brahmas? Never heard of them before. Against the Birmingham Stallions. That was the name of the team when the USFL started several years ago. United Football League. It's a great concept, and hats off to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for being a part of that. But I tried to look at that game yesterday and looked like Birmingham was on their way to blowing them out. So it was a game you couldn't even hardly watch. I hope that product works and it happens because as a football coach, probably my last year high school football, having kids and seeing kids, everybody's not going to go to the league, but some of these kids do have the talent to reach some of these other leagues, the Canadian Football League, United Football League, and it's just another outlet. It's another opportunity for them. And so our hats off to them. And we're glad they just completed a year where those two leagues combined and came together. Wow, talking sports, that's something I hadn't done in a while. I do want to get retired coach Steve Davis, who gave me the privilege of working with him there at Plantation High School, and his successor, Darryl Strong, who played at Plantation with my son over there. And he came over to Plantation last year, and he was kind of like groomed to become the head coach at Plant, and thankfully he got the position. And so next year, so this year will be his first year as head coach. We had a spring season. We didn't play another team. We just did a couple of scrimmages, and I like what I see and what he's doing. I'm going to bring the two of them on. And let's talk about the status of high school football, where kids are jumping around just like they do in college now, where everybody's more concerned about their X account than they are a team. So those kind of dynamics. Things probably won't ever go back to where they used to be, but we're going to talk about the old school leaders that could kind of keep a team together and keep a team concept in place and see if that's something that's still possible in today's ages. They're just lessons that can be learned and should be taught, and can be learned if people listen to good leaders who would dedicate themselves to it. A lot of people are kind of doing like Lou Saban, who says, I just don't have time for this. I can't do the NIL. I can't do this. So we'll see how that works out. It has been a joy tonight. It was like I said, I guess my grandmother used to tell my dad, who was strong as an ox, that he was not made of steel. And I guess the last 4 or 5 weeks on that road has taught me that, and it's just caused me to. I wanted to go out and hit a golf ball today, but it took its effect on me. I was just tired. So I am so glad for all of you who signed on, for all of you who are going to watch this show through the week. Remember, go on Facebook and like the Dialogues page. That's Dialogue with Dozie. Go on and like that page so that we can maintain our status to come to you in this platform. And we are so grateful for you every week who are loyal. Some of you have been with us for 4 years. We're going to do an anniversary show in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Next week, we're doing O.J. Simpson look back. We're asking you to join us. Dialogue with Dozie. We love you. Hey, have a blessed week. God bless. We love you. Appreciate you. We out.